Right, so we're officially recording. Move on here. So first off, we'll have Linda LeNoir, Assistant Director for Alumni Engagement and the University Career Center, talking with you about everything you need to ensure that your resumes are in tip-top shape. Next, I'll take over. I'm the Program Director for the School of Public Health. So I'll be, giving you some pointers on how to really hone and maximize the potential of your job search. And then last but not least, Pamela Allen, who's our program director and liaison to multi-ethnic students, will be talking with you about networking and how to kind of perfect your netiquette. So with that quick intro, I'm going to ask my colleagues really quickly just to make sure I didn't forget anything else. But I'm going to transfer control over to Linda.
Okay.
And now, Linda, you should be able to just kind of control the screen and move on at your own pace.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much, Lauren and Pamela, for being here, and for all of you alum who have joined in today. Thank you so much. And as you were just heard, we will indeed be recording this session, and so by being here, you do consent to us being able to capture that information as needed by the association. So my topic is on the basics of resumes. And I will tell you that typically this can be over an hour just trying to talk about resumes. So what I like to do is to see what I can do in a short time that we have in order to get you started, okay, with our resumes. And here it is. So resumes at a glance, what I'm going to do is give you an overview of resumes in general. What is the anatomy of a resume? And what do you find in a master resume? Approaching each of these topics, what is a resume? Basically, a resume is relevant information. Keep that in mind, relevant information that is about everything that you've done that's relevant to the position you're applying to, not everything that you've done. You're going to write your resume with the reader or the employer in mind. You're going to make sure that you personalize the information to reflect the strengths and your interests and your capabilities as they relate to that particular employer's position. And I keep saying that because you're really working on customizing or tailoring your resume. This is your chance using action verbs to be able to articulate to an employer, this is who I am and this is what I bring to you. You use bulleted points, not complete sentences, in order to help you to draw that attention in. References, you should know about them. We'll talk about them briefly later, but they are on a completely separate page. So references are not included on your resume. So overall, the anatomy of a resume, and some of this sounds like, really, Linda? But yes, contact information. What happens is sometimes you start writing a resume and making corrections. And I've had this where somebody suddenly their name is dropped off and they didn't even know it. So make sure that your contact information is there, including mailing address, cell phone number, and your LinkedIn URL if you have one, and you should. The mailing address, sometimes folks are putting in the city and state. That's up to you to decide, but you need to have contact information available. You need to have an objective, at least in the beginning. We tend to promote objectives because it helps you to focus what it is you're writing your resume about. So that's going to identify the position or the skills that you're interested in using or developing. You have a degree from the University of Maryland. So here's a chance for you to talk about your educational background and the classes that you might have. And I'm going to go into these a little more deep in a few minutes. Your experience, and the biggest part about experience is that it can be paid or unpaid. It can be information on your accomplishments, whatever your experiences are, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about rescinded offers too. Extracurricular, that is where you're involved in activities outside of the classroom or outside of the job. Or maybe it's a volunteer experience. And your skills. Your skills can be soft skills or technical skills. So let's look at each of those. I mentioned the contact information, and there you have it. Here's Tommy Terrapin, and that's what he's bringing to his resume. That's how you can contact Tommy. He has an objective on here, and actually his objective is a little lengthy, I think, but basically it has on here that he's looking for an internship, or you might have one that you're looking for a full-time position in the field of communication. And there are different ways the objective can be spelled out. But with the objective, it's now going to help you to determine what is it that I'm going to talk about regarding what I'm doing. Because a lot of times your objective may or may not have anything to do with your major, okay? And I often like to pick on people who majored in philosophy. You're not necessarily going on to become a philosopher, but you do have some certain skills that you're trying to bring to the table. An objective is basically a chance for you to focus or target the resume. It is something that takes a little bit more time than you might think, but it's important that you take that time. Your objective can be the name, simply the name of the position. My objective is sales manager or entry level communications officer. Skills, you could have one there that you're seeking a position using strong communication skills, or it could be interest, position working with animals. The industry could be that you're looking to get involved in the healthcare field, or the employer, you're targeting PetSmart, or and I'm going to say Chewy because I know Chewy is a product that has a pets industry, and they are actually doing a couple of presentations for us, or any combination of the above. So how might that play out? Can I go back? How can I go back? Okay, so thank you. So here are some sample objectives, for instance. Thank you, Lauren. For instance, an implementation consultant is actually a real job that was in our Careers for Terps database. So you could have on there implementation consultant using excellent leadership, communication, creative skills. This is very much a skills-oriented position. So here you're talking about, I'm using these skills to become an implementation consultant. It also has on there the name of the employer. So you could say, I want to use these skills working with a particular employer. This position was posted by Fast Enterprise LLC. So that is what you're seeing there. So two ways to put in an objective. Once you have those objectives, then the balance of the resume is going to support those skills that you're saying that you possess or that you have and you want to exercise in that particular company. The same thing can be said if you just have on there public relations associate. Could be just simply, that's the name of the position. Or public relations associate using strong editing and marketing skills. So once again, there's the name of the position and the name of the skills. You might also take that a step further and put in there that you're using those skills for a particular industry or for a particular organization. So this is how that might play out with your objective. And I think, yeah, with the objective, you have a chance to put in there your experience, and your experience is going to support that objective. So for instance, with your experience, you are promoting yourself. You are looking at the social chair is the name of the position versus the name of the organization. So always put in there who you are. What did you do? Because what? This is your resume. Okay. So social chair. And what did you do as a social chair? You were a sales associate. What did you do? And the same thing down here. The difference is separating out what's relevant, relevant where, relevant to that objective that you've taken the time and put some effort into defining. So The social chair has in all the communication information, and that's going to be exposed right here. Whereas the other positions were strong positions, but not quite as relevant as the social chair position. Okay. When you're looking at relevant experiences, keep in mind that you should always think back to what did you do while you were here at the University of Maryland in particular. This particular webinar is for entry level or new graduates. And so very often you tend to forget that you had class projects. What was the name of that class? What was the title? What was your role with that class project? Were you the leader? Were you one of five? What were the results of that particular position? So talk about the classes that you've had. Write down, did you have to write a paper? Did you have to do a presentation? You know, what did you all receive from that? Did you get a good grade? Because here's a chance that you might have to show your writing skills as well as your communication skills, as well as your expertise in developing a PowerPoint. So class projects are not to be taken lightly. They may or may not have something to do with the particular job, but they might have something to do with the skills that you're looking at. Internships, paid, unpaid, in-person and remote, all of those are important. And once again, whether you receive credit or not, I know this past semester in particular, in this virtual environment, there are many students I've spoken with that were doing things unpaid. They weren't getting credit. Well, those kinds of voluntary experiences are important to put down. The same thing with your service, work study, or if you had a chance to study abroad, to put that information in, especially when you're defining the kinds of skills that you developed during that time. That's a lot to do with your intercultural skills, being able to work with others, volunteering, you know, what was your role? And it just shows a deeper depth as to what it is that you bring to an organization. If you played athletics, and that could be just for fun in intramurals, or it could be club sports. So you don't have to be on the main team, but perhaps you were involved with intramurals. Student organizations, those can be organizations that are academic as well as social. You could be a member of the chess club. Were you a member? Were you the president? Were you the treasurer? Did you help the organization to win an award? So think back to the kinds of organizations you've been involved in. Were you a member of a professional association as a student? That's always something to put in there. So if you've been a member of the IEEE student chapter, be able to put that down so this shows that you've been involved in your profession and trying to get more information there. Research. Have you done any research? I mean, you're here at the University of Maryland, somewhere along the line, I know you had to write a paper, okay? And so what was that class? And what were the results? You're trying to put down there as much information as you can. And actually you're putting in as much information as you can, because later on you're going to tailor that. Question has often come up about canceled internships and employment opportunities. For those of you who just graduated, if you've had an internship or an employment opportunity that was canceled, you should put that on there at this time and address the fact that, yes, you were selected for that position, all right? You were selected for that internship. And due to the pandemic, they had to cancel the opportunity. But the fact that you were competitive and selected is extremely important at this time. And sure to not shy away from putting that information down, but letting people know that you are a competitive individual. Okay. One thing you're trying to do too at all times is to use keywords from a job description. So when you look at a job description, you will see in there that they're looking for very particular information. And if you were to cut and paste a job description and put it into a source such as tagcrowd.com, it will help you to come up with the various words, up to 50 words, that are most relevant to that position. It's a way to help you to focus your language in your description so that you're speaking the language of the organization. They might be using the word client and you've been using the word person. So maybe you need to change that word alone just so that you're able to speak that language. And as I said, Tag Crowd is one of many that are out there. This is a very good one to help you to see how keywords can resonate with the reader of your resume. I can't say enough about strong action verbs. To say that you helped or assisted is not saying enough. What did you do? Think strongly about that and look for some of those key words that can be much more powerful. We have some of them on our website at careers.umd.edu, or you can sometimes Google and look for words that might be stronger. When you say helped, what kind of help did you provide? You should try to group as much as you can your related experiences. So that you might have on there those that are most relevant and those that are maybe in a separate category. So you might have communication experiences, you might have educational experiences, you might have experiences working in a particular industry. But if you can put them in different buckets, it helps you then to look at the bigger picture and to see how you can bring that together to be able to best articulate what it is that you bring to the table. Many of you have come from very talented high schools, which is perfect for getting into the University of Maryland. But sophomore year, you really should have dropped that off. So even though you might have been in a science and tech program, that's not, you've had so many more relevant things to happen in your life since high school. And you need to spend your time concentrating on what they were, and especially, as I said, looking sometimes at what happened inside your classrooms. And within all of this, you're going to keep it to one page. And that's going to be kind of the crazy thing, but you can get it to one page, being specific and being concise. One way to work on having your experiences articulated is to think in terms of SHIP, S-H-I-P. And you can see here what that is. You're looking at how to use an action verb. So you start with that action verb. What is the achievement or the results? All right. And how do you tailor that? And what kind of data can you put in there? So let's look and see what that might look like. So here's one way of saying that you worked as an RA. Well, what's an RA? Resident assistant. You can put it like this, or you can spell out resident assistant. You have the numbers in here, and you have a chance to really talk about, that you counsel, that you plan, that you advise, that you designed. So you have strong action verbs. You have some numbers in here, which makes it much richer than what you see at the very top. Okay, so that's what you want to do. Think about the impact that second experience statement has versus the first one. Much more competitive. As I mentioned about rescinded offers, yes, you are going to include them, but then later on when you do get a job, then you want to drop that off. But it is good to put it in there initially, okay? And one way to do it is written right here, okay? There's always room for additional information, such as your technical skills. Depending on your field, you might have lab skills, programming skills, language skills, and other kinds of skills. The thing about this is that sometimes people have these technical skills, especially that social media and the quick bucks, and sometimes it's knowing the Microsoft suite, including Excel. So sometimes you have these skills, you don't use them every day, and you don't think in terms of those marketable, but they really are. And so you should think about what can you bring to the table, put them in that technical skills area, and then depending on the position that you're applying to, it'll let you know which ones you need to really bring to their attention and where it will fit in the sequencing of your resume. Your formatting should always be consistent. Make sure that, you know, if your resume takes up 3/4 of a page, fit it so it's onto one page. It doesn't look like it's really weird. Play with your margins, no smaller than a 1/2 inch. Make sure that you have your information so that the least important information is on the right. That's where we typically put dates, and the more important is on your left. Okay. Bold and capitalize your headings, because what you're trying to do is to quickly draw the attention of the employer or the reader to the information. So you want to make sure everything is organized and that you have read it through and you know what you're doing and how you might want to move things around. We like to say to avoid templates, because basically when you have a template, if you have to go back in later on to update it, it really throws everything off. So templates are something that you really need to think, and we recommend that you not use. So as you can see here, there are your dates all on the right side. There's your bolding on the left side. There's your relevant experience and regular work experience and other information such as involvement on campus in leadership roles or as a member, as well as any honors and awards. All of this information is in the hierarchy of what's most relevant to the position that Tommy Terrapin is applying to. I mentioned a master resume very briefly, but in general, what you're doing there is, and especially with those in-class experiences, is writing them out. If you were to identify 3 to 5 in-class experiences and write them out, and that way you have them and you can pick and choose from them when you're applying to a job. But to take the time now to capture those moments, write them out fully, and you might use 2 for one position and maybe 2 others for another position. So a master resume can end up being 2, even 3 pages possibly. You will not be turning a master resume in, but it turns out being a place, a reservoir for you to go to and to pull information from depending on the position that you're applying to. At that point, you're going back to what we talked about initially, the most relevant information and experience as you're customizing that one-page resume. I mentioned references, and as I said, you do not put that on there, but there is an expectation that if somebody asks you for a reference, that you have indeed checked in and you know who those persons are. Always check to see who might you use for a reference. In this day and time, because most of all your classes are virtual, don't assume that your professor is going to remember you. So you need to reach out to them now. And if you had a great class, a great experience, and ask, can I use you for a reference? Plan ahead as to what that might be. Be sure you have the references full name, title, and how they can be got in touch with, whether it's by phone or by email. And as you're applying to positions, be sure to give that information to the reference so they know what it is when the interviewer is asking for how you fit the position. They're able to address that information. And always keep your reference in the queue. Keep them updated. There are always typos that can cause a pitfall. So make sure after you think everything is done, give it to somebody that you know has a very keen editing eye to make sure that you don't have any grammatical or spelling errors. Of all things, that's the one thing that people immediately look at and say, oh no, that's not good. Avoid personal pronouns, I, my, and mine. And then make sure that you use our checklist that we have, which is on our TERP guide. Read, review, reread, ask a friend to check it again. Like I said, we go in there, and there are 3 different ways that can come up and you might have the wrong one in. So you want to make sure that that's done correctly. You're doing your best to put your best foot forward at all times by customizing your resume, organizing your information, using keywords throughout, addressing the particular position that you're applying to because you're really focused, and making sure that all of your experiences are there. As you go through, you're looking at the perfection that you can bring to the job. Spend the time now and you can land the job that you're looking for. And always go back to our Career Center's website. You will see information there on the TERP guide that has a lot of rich information. You can also do some follow-up information by looking at the careers for TERPs and looking through sites such as Indeed, just to get a sense of who are some of these employers, what kinds of positions are there, what are the skills that I'm trying to market. And so these are some sources that can help you to identify how to go about writing 1, 2, or even 3 different kinds of resumes. At this time, what we're going to do, as I said, we went through this quickly. We'd like to take a few minutes just to have you a chance to discuss with others one tip that you may have taken from this presentation. Lauren, do we have time to do that?
I think so. So I'm going to quickly just do some breakout rooms. We have 53 participants. So I think I'll break out into, actually, it looks like we only have 15 now. So maybe I'll do groups of 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a few breakout rooms here. And so like Linda said, just take, a quick minute to kind of discuss. Yeah, I think someone's microphone is on if you just mute yourselves. No problem. But that actually does bring up a good thought, which I had forgot to say, which is if you do have any questions, please feel free to type those questions into the chat. I know you may have had some while we were doing this section of the presentation, but if any come up, as we're about to do this breakout activity, please be sure to chat them to Pamela Allen, and then we will have a question and answer portion at the end of this presentation where we will get to hopefully all of those, but if not, we'll address how to get through them at that time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and break everyone into groups, take about 5 minutes to just kind of discuss what 1 or 2 tips even did you just learn that you're going to plan to implement on your resume after this presentation? All right.
didn't want to pronounce your name wrong.
Yeah, that was me. I'll be back in a minute.
Lauren, are you there?
I'm so sorry. I had unmuted myself and it somehow remuted me.
I
So
thought so.
I'm not sure if anyone heard anything that I said, but
Nope.
no, not a thing. Okay, good. Technical difficulties all around. But so really essentially, so I gave a quick reminder. If you do have, any questions, please throw those into the chat to Pamela Allen, and we will be sure to answer those at the end of the presentation today. So I'm going to hop into beginning to speak about starting your job search and kind of preparing. So that first step is, to begin preparing for your search, getting all of your documents together, including that master resume Linda was just talking about, so that when it comes time to, prep and really hone your resume for each individual position, you have the your kind of master list of things that you are drawing from. The next stage is to identify jobs and begin applying. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then making sure that you're leveraging your networks, and then finding things to kind of do in the meantime. Okay. So you can see I have some people still kind of coming in. So I don't know why this isn't going through. Okay. So in preparing for your search, the first step there is really clarifying your interests, your skills, and your values. And a really good way to do that, either if you're kind of coming back to the search after, being out of work for a while, or, maybe this is your first job search, or, if you're starting, off on a new career, whatever the case might be, really taking the time to clarify those interests, revisit what your skills and values are. And the University Career Center does have a great resource for this, is our Focus 2 assessment, which will basically take you through assessing your interests, skills, and values, and kind of helping you align what types of careers might align with those. So the next objective is to identify companies of interest, right? So for example, that might be, during a search, or, speaking with, mentors in the field about, what are the kind of top organizations, the top companies, the top players in the field that you're interested in. So for example, top healthcare companies to work for in 2020 is an article on Glassdoor.com. Glassdoor has a lot of these types of articles, not just in the healthcare field. And just kind of getting a sense of where are some of the places that you might want to work. Also knowing your salary needs. So being really honest about, what do you need versus what do you want? And this isn't just going to be salary. Sometimes you might need access to really great benefits, or you might need, a flexible schedule. Maybe you have, young children at home, or maybe you have, an elderly parent that you need to take care of, right? So you need a workplace that's going to be more flexible. So really clarifying what those needs are. Linda mentioned our TERP guide. It has plethora of resources, including a budgeting tool, which will kind of help you look at what your living costs are, and from their budget, so you understand what kind of a salary you need. And finally, perfecting your application documents and your Careers for TERPs profile. So if you are using Careers for TERPs for your job search, which is an excellent, component of a fully fledged job search, making sure that it's updated with all of your interests, with your major, with your graduation date, all of that information in there. And again, taking a lot of time to perfect your resume and your cover letters. So next, talking about identifying jobs and kind of beginning the applying process. So a great first step is coming to this presentation. So congratulations, you already took step one. But step two from here, after you've kind of implemented some of the tips we've talked about today, would be to schedule a job search appointment with a Career Center staff member. And you can do that as an alumni. If you're a recent alumni, you might still have access through Careers for TERPs as through your student account, but if not, you do have access as an alum, and you can go in and schedule an appointment that way. Also making sure that you're attending career fairs. So as an alumni of the University of Maryland, you have access to the career fairs, ongoing. And my deepest apologies, I overlooked this one update, but so we are having a virtual career fair this spring, which will be February 17th and 18th. Linda and Pamela, I believe those are the dates off the top of my head. It's a Wednesday and a Thursday. And yes, so you can find, correct. So you can find more information about that at the University of Maryland Career Center events page. So that's another great way, right? Coming back, not just to that, but, other job fairs that might be happening at the university and other free fairs that might be happening as well. Sometimes you can find those on websites like Eventbrite, those types of things, opportunities to just network and engage with employers. Also targeting job boards. So we've talked about Careers for TERPs, right? That's a great first stop shop because all employers who are in there are actively seeking TERPs to employ. Going broad by using Indeed. This is probably a resource many of you have heard of, which basically kind of scrapes the internet for, job postings and gives you a really kind of wide net to cast. Using Idealist if you think you're interested in that kind of nonprofit NGO type space. And USA Jobs is a great resource, for federal positions. And they have a great tool that helps you kind of convert your, more standard kind of business resume into the immobulous document that is a federal resume. And next, a great tip is to create a schedule and tracking document for your applications. I like to call this a job journal personally. I think using Google Sheets or Excel is a great way to do this. The information you want to put in there is obviously, the position title, the organization, when the application is due, when you submitted the application, and then if you followed up or have heard back, or haven't heard back, include those dates as well. Another thing I like to say and tell students is to also make a note about in that position, what were kind of the top, 3 or 4 things about that position description that really stood out to you, that you thought you would like to do, right? That really drew you to that position. And the reason I say to include that is because when you're doing a job search, you can be going through, 10, 20, 30, 40 different jobs. And you're not always going to remember exactly what are those things that are sticking out to you. If you have those written down, that can actually be a great way to help you continue to clarify your interests, right? Are there themes that you're seeing that are popping up about things you like to do? Are there types of organizations that keep popping up? Are there keywords and position titles that you keep seeing? And that can help to kind of hone that, that job search a little further. Next, you do want to make sure that you're leveraging your networks. And so the first stage in this is to make sure that you are establishing, if you don't already have them, but also really cleaning up social media accounts. So this isn't something new for most of you, I'm sure. You know, you don't necessarily want to have a picture of you, you know, lounging on the beach with a margarita as your, you know, professional profile picture, right? So when you are actively in a job search, you want to do your best to kind of remove those types of images. You know, set your accounts to private if you are going to have those types of images. And just making sure that you're kind of putting the most professional foot forward you can. This also means really leveraging and maximizing your professional accounts. So, you know, your LinkedIn account, you know, maybe you have a professional Twitter account that you're using to engage with, you know, colleagues or organizations that you're interested in. But so making sure that you have you know, the appropriate kind of images on there, but you're also having the information about, you know, what you do, what you're interested in, what your skills are, all of that information, you know, making sure that it's included on your professional social media accounts. So building and maximizing the potential of your social networks, again, making sure that you're set up, but also actively going out and connecting with people. So on LinkedIn, you know, this means connecting with, you know, the University of Maryland page, right? Maybe going in and searching, you know, individuals who are working at organizations you're interested in, or who are doing the work that you're interested in, who are also alumni. You know, reaching out with them, connecting with them, and making sure that you're sending a note, right? You're not just saying, like, the generic, hey, let's connect, but you're saying, hi, I see that you work for this organization. You know, you know, I'm a recent graduate from the School of Public Health, interested in working in the field of epidemiology, and I'd love to connect with you and learn more about what you do, right? So adding a personalized note will just incentivize the person you're connecting with to say, hey, they took the time to actually, you know, write something and personalize it instead of just kind of sending, you know, willy-nilly the requests. Next, so leverage your current network, right? So when we think of networks, sometimes we can think of it as like an icky thing, right? The word of networking is, you know, we're just trying to kind of get something from someone else. But that's really not what it is at all. Your network is comprised not just of people you meet professionally, but of family members, of friends, right? Your network is composed of the people that you care about, you're interested in, and it's a mutually beneficial network. So, you know, leverage your connections, talk to your professors about things that you're interested in, opportunities that might come up. Talk to, you know, former internship supervisors about, you know, any opportunities they might have or any suggestions they might have. But also, you know, talk to your aunt's friend, right? Who, you know, maybe works in this career, right? Or, you know, talk to your family and tell them what you're interested in. You never know whose aunt's friend or whose coworker's brother works at that organization or, you know, works in one of those positions. And so just making sure that you are leveraging all those networks. And finally, always making sure that you are following up. So anytime you do make a connection, you do have a chance to engage with someone, making sure that you are taking the time to thank them for their time and remind them that you really appreciated the opportunity. And our Netiquette piece in just a moment that Pamela will be talking about. We'll discuss a little bit more about how to do that. Okay. So next we'll move on to what to do in the meantime. So taking some time to access LinkedIn Learning. If you are currently a student or a recent kind of alum or graduate, you do still have access to LinkedIn Learning through the University of Maryland, I think for 6 months after graduation. So, you know, really leveraging that to use to learn a skill, right? So anything from coding to, Excel, to mastering InDesign, right? Adobe InDesign. So, those kind of more technical skills and perfecting your ability to use them. And then incorporating that as on your resume, under the skills section, under certification sections, right? So making sure that you're doing the work and then you're reflecting it on your resume. Also, enrolling in kind of these massive online courses, these MOOCs, taking a chance to volunteer. Linda mentioned, speaking with lots of, students, individuals, alumni who have been, kind of volunteering their time in this age of isolation that we have. We have a lot more free time when we can't, go out and do as many things as we used to. So anything that you've been doing on the side, make sure that you include that on your resume, but also look for those opportunities. So here are a few options listed here that do offer, kind of project-based volunteer opportunities. So United Nations has a list of them. Catch a Fire is a website that has, again, like a list of projects, all kinds of different skills, marketing, analysis, mentorship opportunities. So, and then DoSomething.org is another one that will offer kind of opportunities to get engaged and volunteer your skills and help build your skills too, keep them, from getting rusty. You can also practice interviewing. Some people are really great natural interviewers. Other people need a little bit more practice. So it never hurts to kind of just get comfortable with that format of an interview. And there are some really great tools. So through the University of Maryland, we do have the interview stream, which you can access from our webpage. But LinkedIn also has an interviewing tool. So if you go onto LinkedIn and you go under jobs, there is a kind of interviewing tool that actually gives you access to, common questions. And then it will actually provide you, example answers and explanations about why those example answers are good. So to kind of help you think about and build your own perfect answer to those types of questions and really understand the mechanics of answering those questions. And next, perfecting your virtual communication, again, in this day and age, even after we've returned to quote unquote normal, I think you're going to see virtual communication become even more of a kind of staple. And so perfecting your virtual communication skills and your netiquette are going to be essential. And with that in mind, I am going to pass it on to my colleague, Pamela. Pamela, do you think we have time to do our other kind of breakout activity, or would you rather just jump into your section?
What I'm going to do, there's a number of questions in the website, in our chat. And so I just want to make sure we're getting those addressed.
Yeah. Do you want to do the Q&A now? So Pamela, did you want to, are they related?
I apologize. I was talking
okay.
to myself. I said, I'm going to go ahead. I was answering some of the questions. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now real quickly because I answered the P. I typed some of that out, the SHIP for federal job applications and help with that. Look at our website. We have some workshops coming up. Also check, and then careers for TERPs, that's indicated. What is the best way to highlight MOOC on a certificate? Under, you could put that, which college you got it from, and then what it was that you got, or you can create a category of certificates under education. I think that's all I'll go for right now.
Okay. So would you like to just skip straight into your section, or do you want to do the kind of breakout activity that we had planned, again, the kind of questions about virtual networking, or would you rather just skip in? I'm asking because we were at 3:55 and I know we have Q&A time and I want to give you enough time for your session.
I apologize. It went back to mute there. I'm going to go straight into.
All right, sounds good.
Mhm.
And I will, give me 1 second. I'm going to give you remote control.
Okay, I'm getting set up too. Hope that's not what I want.
Okay. You should have access now. Control the screen.
Okay, and everybody can hear me. Great, great, great.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. The basic, and I'm going to be talking about the basics of Netiquette. And Netiquette is so important because especially in our day and age where not many people are going to see you in person, and especially during this few month or the year of COVID. So trying to put your best foot forward is still important. Okay. Okay. Now on. Excuse me, I'm having some technical difficulties with my equipment here. Let's see. Oh, okay. Netiquette rules, the short list. It's kind of really common sense, but the short list. Know the reader. Be professional, consider the technology, follow the instructions, check before you send. And as Linda indicated, this is important in your resume if you're going to send that, even in your email. You're going to do that. Make sure that you're checking and proofing. And why we said be professional. For some of you, a recent graduate, it's not like you're going to be writing to your friend and sometimes even to your professors. You are trying to get the job. And another important thing is read the request. What do they want sent back? Follow the instruction. Sometimes that can be an upfront assessment. Are you good at details? Do you read the details? So make sure you send what they want. The language, the Netiquette rules, like I said, and knowing the reader, know who's reading this communication and where it should be directed at, that's important. You sending something to the recruiter is different than if you get a chance to speak to the supervisor. A recruiter is usually, in some cases, is a generalist. The supervisor is probably going to be the key person in hiring you or selecting you. Know your contact referral, like an alum. Search, look them up on LinkedIn, or even if need be, Google them. Netiquette rules, professional tone. Be professional. Like, see, if I was writing Lauren, I may say, "Hey, Lauren," but if I'm going to be in professional, I'm probably going to write Miss Meier. It is nice. I would love this opportunity to interact with you. So be conscious of that. Writing to the prospective employers is formal. Use the industry language. Like some of you, like say here, you may say like, hey, a formal language rather than say, hey, I want to talk with you, Miss Allen. Like you may write like, hey, you want to write like, hey, I would like to request a counseling appointment, a career counseling appointment. That's what we mean by formal language. Technology and social media. Consider the technology and social media can be different for different organizations. Does the organization use and allow certain technical or social media? That can be important, like if you're going to government organizations or different things like that. Is the reader familiar with this technology? No, just because they may be boomer or Gen X, if they're in the hiring, if they're in the fluent, you want to make sure any technology you refer to that is you want to check in with. A way to do it, use something that's more common. Be respectful even if they're not at your level with technology and social media. Accuracy. The moment you send an item virtual, you are being evaluated. So stop, review it, proof it, step aside, then return to it, review it, proof it, and step aside. Be careful when you respond by phone. You may even want to practice if you have to make a response by phone or write it out. You may find yourself quickly wanting to respond, but without looking what you wrote or say or thinking about it. It's so important. Okay. Acknowledge and follow the instructions. I said that earlier, that's so important. Send what the organization requested. Yeah, because they may not take time to send back to you like, oh, you were missing this out of your application. Oh, you didn't have this. And this is not like you're taking a class. I know in some classes, professors won't allow it to have you make it up. Others may, because this is, and maybe an educational room, so they feel that they may be flexible. Use the method that they noted. If they said send a 2 to 3 page writing sample in PDF format, send a 2 to 3 page writing sample in PDF format. And okay, now this is here, this what is recommended, especially in LinkedIn. When you go to request a contact, there could be some rules or in action. Keep it 300 words or less. And this is a sample for students, but think about it that you're an alum and you could be thinking, hey, as an alum at the University of Maryland with an interest in, have the common thing, I want to reach out to you. And please reply. So, and also just include that part, last part, thank you in advance for your time and consideration. Okay. That's it. Okay. You heard constant reference throughout this presentation about our TERP guide. Well, here is something too to help you if you need to actually write an email, something else. This is some suggestion. There's also a link in how to get to that. It's also important to send a thank you note or thank you comment. And a thank you note could just be a thank you statement and say, I really appreciate even just taking the time, even when you get to speak with them. Okay. And yes, okay, that concludes what I had wanted to say. So, and I'm going to check some of the questions and answers here. Let's see if we, okay, from everyone. Okay. I think we got all the questions. If somebody heard something, oh, wait a minute, quantitative data when possible. Okay, I think we've concluded everything. I think I caught most of the questions that everybody typed in. And so Should we open up? So colleagues, Lauren, Lyndon.
I was gonna say, is there a way to unmute everybody? I don't know who has control. And
Yeah.
if anybody has, sometimes people don't want to sit there and try to type something in, but here's your opportunity. We're right here, and there's no such thing as a bad question, okay? And very often
So
somebody else is sitting there saying,
I'm going to
"Oh."
allow everyone to unmute themselves. Although I am seeing we have one question from Gaia, it looks like, in terms of cover letters, do you suggest addressing someone specifically besides just hiring manager? If there are multiple hiring managers on the website, which one should you address? Is it bad to address the wrong person? So I'll go ahead and take a stab at this, and then, Pamela and Linda, please feel free to add in your own perspective. But typically there will be some kind of clue as to, they're the hiring manager for this branch, or they're the hiring manager, working here, or, maybe it's the assistant director who's, the head of this team. Look at how the position you're applying for aligns within the organizational structure. So, look at, what team might it be a part of, and, try to figure out who is that hiring manager for that team, right? So do even like kind of one step more, than that. So that's how I would say to try to look at, if you find the hiring manager, look not just at what the title is, but what team are they a part of, right? What department are they working in? And then dependent on what the role is you're applying for, try to talk with the hiring manager within that department. Is that, Linda, Pamela, you have anything else to add there?
No, I totally agree that, do some research, because that really pays off in the end. If you've been able to do the research, as Lauren was just discussing, and you're able to say, hey, I was able to find out the right person, to go ahead and reach out like that. The other thing is that sometimes you might even find that when you do some research, either in Terrapins Connect or on LinkedIn, that there might be an alum that is a part of that organization that you might be able to also reach out to and see if you can't get an inside recommendation, by which token you can say that Jane Johnson, University of Maryland alum, recommended I reach out to you regarding this particular opportunity. So don't underestimate the value of connections. I know Lauren spoke a lot about that, but more and more employers are relying on LinkedIn. There are different workshops throughout this week, as well as LinkedIn offers them. Do what you can to make sure that you have your LinkedIn profile up to date and that you're marketing yourself, because very often they're using that as a way to source people into jobs. The same thing is happening with Terrapins Connect. If you're not familiar with Terrapins Connect, it is part of the Alumni Association, and there's a huge way in which they are actually working where you can communicate with alumni to get the inside scoop on different positions, different companies, and feedback on your resume, all kinds of ways to network. But the virtual environment in many ways is scary, but then again, the virtual environment has made it so that there are a lot of rich ways in which you can reach out and really get inside scoops on hiring authorities. So kind of like an extension of your question, but hopefully some inside information that you'll find useful.
Pamela, anything to add on that one?
Not so much on that one, but I just want to say overall, the Alumni Association has groups that reflect you, many of you, and I'm just going to name a few, like affinity groups. So they have UMBA, which is a Black association. They have an Asian, one that can reflect that. And there's also very active Latinx groups. So also if you're filling, and they have a list of other groups too. So if you needed to network or be connected to people who you feel more comfortable with, there are alumni groups out there, and it's across the country, the country. So by region. So I just wanted to share that as well.
Thanks,
Is
Pamela.
there a website has like a job journal template for if we wanted to do one that was like being talked about?
Yeah. So Jessica, I just seen your message and was about to get to it. So in terms of an actual template, I have one that I use, but it's really, if you have access even to Google Sheet or to, Excel, really it's as simple as just kind of putting in, some titles along the top in a first row, with, the position, title, organization title, like I said. And then I would say the most important things are both the date that the application is due and the date that you submitted the application, so that you can kind of also keep track of, when did you submit it? How long has it been? Is it time to follow up with, with the hiring manager or with whoever you submitted it to? And then I would say after that, in another column, sometimes titled, notes, or, like items of interest, is where I would say to kind of enter those notes about, what are the types of things that stood out to you about the position. So in terms of an actual template, off the top of my head, I can't think of one that has a specific template like that. But like I said, it would be pretty easy to go in and kind of make it your own too. Maybe there's another category that you are interested in tracking, right? Maybe there's, something about it, like maybe there's a benefits column and they talk about their benefits, right? And so you want to be able to compare, by organization, what are the benefits they're offering. So, in that way, kind of making it a little bit more customizable to your specific question. I also saw a question about where will the recording of this presentation be located. And I will actually admit I'm not 100% sure, because I know this is kind of being recorded to the Alumni Association account. So Linda, I don't know if you know where Ellie is planning to house this.
Yes, they will send the recording to everybody who registered for this session. So you should receive that from Ellie Garrity from the Alumni Association.
And do you know if they'll be posting it anywhere? Like if it
I
will be a
don't know that they're
resource?
posting it. I know she's
Okay.
sending it, but I don't know the answer there.
Okay. All right. So hopefully if you are here, then you had registered for it. And if not, I would suggest reaching out. You can reach out to one of us, or you can reach out to Ellie Garrity, and if you don't get that recording and you would like access to it. And then
Or just if you don't get it, email me and I'll check in with Ellie.
And we can make sure you get it.
First initial L and then my last name at umd.edu. So if you don't get it, reach out to me and I'll check in with Ellie. But give her a couple of days because there are a lot of presentations throughout the week. And I don't know whether it's being sent immediately or at the conclusion of the week, but give it a week and she should be sending them out.
And I see another follow-up question too. If you can't find a hiring manager, but only a talent acquisition, specialist maybe. And, the honest answer is that sometimes you're not going to be able to determine exactly who is the right person within an organization that will be reading. What I would say is that it is better to show that you've done some measure of research into the organization than just to kind of send out a generic to whom it may concern. So even if maybe you got, slightly the wrong, program director, right? Or maybe, it's like if you show that you did your best to look at, hey, who's working in this organization, working for this team, working as a measure of this, then that's been my kind of where I err on it. But I would invite Linda and Pamela to share their kind of perspective on that as well.
I was going to say, whatever you do, follow those Netiquette rules and don't say, hey.
Yes.
Or hey there. Do not do that. You would do better to say, dear hiring manager, and err on the side of that being stronger than, hey there, I'm looking for a position with your company. No, that's a no-no.
Yeah,
Pamela, Netiquette?
Yeah, an excellent point. Whoever you're addressing it to, whatever you choose to do make sure that you are using kind of the most, formal, respectful, professional language that you can.
Yes.
And if you feel like we weren't as detailed, you can always Google this and then, or check back with us with different sites. Uh, it's a cost-based one, but Grammarly is very good in helping people to know which language and style that can help you.
Grammarly is a great resource. It's true. Okay, those are all of the kind of questions that I saw coming through. Anyone who's still here, if you have a last question, I'll leave some kind of silent space for you to kind of take your mic off and ask the question now.
So as people are leaving, I just want to say, overall, don't get stopped in your job search. Keep in action. We are, again, we're still here. Come to our different events, but just keep in action.
Absolutely.
Thank you for those words, because it has been a very discouraging time, especially during COVID, to find jobs, especially just some of the encouragement that you ladies are giving is just very needed. Some people actually said, settle for just a job, but I'm like, I'm a recent alum, I got my degree and I really want to, push forward. So anything that you ladies can kind of just advise, during this difficult time would be great. Thank you.
I think the one thing I really want to follow up on is the idea of volunteering is one, and remote volunteering, project volunteering. There are a lot of sites, including the Careers for Terps and Indeed, where you can actually sort on remote. So the possibility of doing something a couple of hours a week in El Paso is a possibility. So, that's one of the, if you want to say one of the good things about being in a virtual environment is that all these remote possibilities have come forth. And so I would say, do some research on locating those. There's a workshop coming up, actually, that she's doing several of them by Mary Ann, who is with Going Global. And that is on our website. And she works with organizations nationally and internationally. And so she is talking about the job search during COVID, something that she created late fall and had hundreds of people signing up for, because she's able to give a global perspective, which was good not only for our international students, but also for other students who might look and say, well, I've often thought about working in that particular country, and you might see where there's a remote opportunity for you to do so. So you can't travel there, but maybe there's a remote possibility. So I would do more and more to look at remote possibilities. Talk with your network about volunteering, whatever that network might be. It could be working with a family member or one of your organizations that you're with. Maybe you can help them to create a strategic plan and to do some marketing or to do some editing. But whatever you do, keep moving. That's the main thing. Keep moving. As Pamela said, don't stay still. This pandemic will pass, but the world, I think, has changed forever. And so you are right there in the midst of this change. And, we're here to help to support you in getting through this change and to be able to continue growing. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, and adding on to what Linda was saying about volunteering, I think a lot of times we think of it as maybe you volunteer at a local food bank, which is a great option. But there are a lot of different types of volunteering. Like in the presentation, I noted the United Nations has project-based volunteering, where you would actually be working on like a marketing campaign, maybe, and using skills that you would gain there. So it's more than just kind of like volunteering your time for public service, but actually, right, it's a great way to kind of demonstrate and continue to build skills. Obviously, it'd be preferable to be making money for it while we're doing it, but it is a good way to really continue to hone those skills and continue to build your resume. And in addition to that, I had talked a little bit about, networking and how it's a lot more than just kind of talking to, other professionals or alumni. It's also about, sending a follow-up email to one of your favorite faculty members and letting them know, what you've been doing since graduation, what you're really interested in, something exciting that happened to you, something that you read that reminds you of the course you took with them, just maintaining those relationships, letting them know what you're interested in, what you are looking for, what you're doing now. If an opportunity comes up or if they hear about something and you've been in contact and they know that you might be interested in it, they're that much more likely to reach out and say, hey, you had mentioned you were interested in this and I heard about this position that's opening up. So just really taking that time to also make sure that you have those kind of healthy networks and I'm going to drop using the word network, but just say relationships, right? With people who have similar interests and who can, kind of keep you in mind as they're navigating their own professional spheres. So those are some really great things and under-leveraged aspects of job searches.
I'm also going to add on to that, because even though I talked Netiquette and Lauren was dropping it and even Miss LeNoir was doing it, but the key word is still networking, or we love to say relationship building. Many of you were involved with also outside organization. Some of you made involved in a group on campus, or like some of you involved with your churches, or spiritual groups, whether on campus or off campus. Talk to people, just have a conversation. And they may not be the ones, but they may be supportive of you to encourage you. But then also the other thing is talk among yourselves. Those who are remaining, make sure you write down or see a name that's here. Maybe just reach out and say, hey, I saw you at the group and maybe you want to buddy up or something like that. Yeah. The worst somebody's going to say is no, not at this time. But the thing is, this is your time. You are graduating from University of Maryland with more skills than you realize. But it may not look like it did 2 years ago, but keep it moving, keep in action, keep the conversation going. Be brave, as a recent poet just said.
Thank you, ladies, for your encouraging words again.
Yes,
you're welcome.
Best of luck to all of you. Rachel, did I see you?
Oh, I just said thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Well, thank you all for staying around and asking your questions. And once again, if you find you have other questions later, feel free to reach out to us. We are located on the University Career Center's website at careers.umd.edu. And thank you for spending your time with us this afternoon. Pamela and Lauren, thanks for us joining together.
And February 17th and 18th is one of our many career fairs.
Career fairs, absolutely. Yes. Mark it on your calendars.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.